Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed series made its debut in 2007 and quickly became one of the developer's most beloved and top-selling IPs. Over the past couple decades, the series has had its ups and downs, but one of the high points came in 2013 with Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. The story of fictional pirate-turned-assassin Edward Kenway sold over 10 million copies within a year and was considered by many to be one of the best games in the series. Since Black Flag's success, the series has gone through some radical changes, and many fans thought they'd never see the classic style of games again. After multiple rumors and leaks, Ubisoft finally announced a remake of the beloved game by Ubisoft Singapore in April of 2026. Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced was released just a few months later on July 9th, 2026 for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. I played on PS5 Pro, and after 52 hours in-game, here's my review of Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. I'm a big fan of the original game. I played it on PS3, PS4, Wii U, and Nintendo Switch, and it's one of my favorite games of all time, so I was really excited about a remake. Ubisoft Singapore updated the visuals to today's standards with up to 4K 60 FPS performance and ray tracing support on both PC and consoles, and looks very pretty. The game ran very smoothly on PS5 Pro and only had some minor graphical bugs left over from the original game, most of which didn't detract from the gameplay. The Caribbean Sea is a gorgeous setting with wide open ocean, jungle islands, and populated cities, and Ubisoft Singapore made it even more beautiful for 2026. The story from the 2013 game still hits just as well in Black Flag Resynced, and some new content was added for the remake too. You play as Edward Kenway, a fictional pirate during the golden age of piracy in the early 18th century as he attempts to make a name for himself and build his fortune. In typical Assassin's Creed fashion, you'll interact with real historical figures from the time period such as Stede Bonnet, Calico Jack, Blackbeard, and many more. The real standout in the story is Edward himself. He goes through a lot of interesting character development, and Matt Ryan does an amazing job bringing him to life. The integration of assassins into the setting is done well, and while the original story is a sequel, Resynced has been designed so anyone can jump in at any time. A few characters from the original received some new content, and new characters with their own optional missions have been added to the remake as well. I liked most of the expanded missions, but I found the new characters a bit bland. It didn't feel like they added anything that meaningful to the experience. I felt the same way about the new modern day content in the game. It wasn't a big hit in the original, but I think it at least tied into the story a little bit better than the remake does. New cutscenes were created for the remake too, but unfortunately there is a drastic and noticeable difference between those and the cutscenes from the original game. Ubisoft Montreal used real motion capture performances for its cutscenes in 2013, but the remake uses procedural generation, which just doesn't have the same emotional impact. You will spot the difference almost immediately, and the generic poses and lifeless eyes of the characters in the new cutscenes are extremely distracting. Despite the new cutscenes, Black Flag Resynced story is still just as epic as in 2013, and even though I prefer the old modern day missions, at least the new ones make the game a little bit more accessible. Now let's talk about the gameplay. Assassin's Creed Black Flag is considered one of the greatest pirate video games of all time, and the gameplay that made that true in 2013 is still here today. You explore the high seas on your upgradable ship, the Jackdaw, battling other ships and stealing their cargo to make it and Edward himself stronger. The weather plays a factor in your exploration, and you'll need to keep your wits about you to survive rogue waves, high winds, and lightning strikes. The original game had a ship minimap with wind direction and restricted areas marked, but for some reason it was removed from the remake. I know it seems like a small thing, but having the ship minimap added a lot to the original's immersion, and I was pretty disappointed that it wasn't here in Resynced. Edward can also explore on land, and the seamless open world is full of collectibles and activities to keep you entertained between story missions. The Great Inagua hideout has been expanded for the remake and is now a central hub with its own well-done side missions, and that's one change I really liked. The Jackdaw has a variety of weapons, and the remake adds even more, plus some abilities from the new ship's officer characters. You can board ships after weakening them to repair and get more loot, and going after stronger and stronger ships never gets old. Edward also has his own weapons for combat on land, including swords, pistols, a rope dart for pulling enemies close, and a blow dart for putting them to sleep. The original Black Flag's combat was the classic 2-button parry and counterattack system, but that's been replaced in Resynced with a more modern combo style. Now, instead of parrying and immediately getting a one-hit kill, Edward needs to work a little bit harder to break down his enemy's defenses before going in for a takedown. It took some getting used to, but I actually didn't mind this change. What I did mind, however, was the removal of picking up enemy weapons from the original game. Being able to pick up a musket or an axe in the original game added so much to the combat, and removing it causes melee combat to get a little bit repetitive. The classic parkour from the original game is back in all its glory, but unfortunately it also retains a lot of the jankiness from 2013. You will fall, jump when you don't want to, and get stuck often, especially when climbing up a ship's mast, and it's amusing the first few times, but gets old after a while. I failed several shipboarding encounters because I accidentally fell from the top of the enemy's mast, and I was a little disappointed that these things didn't get fixed for the remake. The stealth has been updated with a new crouch toggle and lighting mechanics, and makes the assassins part of Assassin's Creed 4 even better than the original. Tailing missions from the original game have also been redesigned without automatic fails and make the gameplay a bit more open-ended and forgiving. Unfortunately, optional objectives and replaying missions from the original have been removed as well, which leads to less gameplay variety despite redesigns. Overall, the changes are a mixed bag, and I feel like for every good addition in the remake, there was a bad omission from the original. Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced is available on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC through Steam, Epic, and the Ubisoft store for $59.99, so not quite full AAA price. The deluxe edition with some cosmetic bonuses is also available for $69.99, and while there is an in-game store, it's mostly just outfits for Edward and not pay to win. After I bring the jackdaw to shore, I'll give this a score from 1 to 4. On the revolutionary Dinkus 4-star scale, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced gets 3 out of 4 stars. This game is very, very good, but it's really only because the original Black Flag was so good. Ubisoft Singapore did a great job updating the visuals, but removed some important parts of the original in the process and added some lackluster content. After playing this, I wanted to go back to the original just to get what was missing, but if you've never played Black Flag, I would definitely recommend checking it out. Overall, Black Flag Resynced is a great update to the original game, but it's only at its best if you haven't played the original and don't know what's missing. Buy this game, but make sure it's on sale.